Her name was Mai, and when people passed her on the streets of Hanoi, they didn't always see her. Not really. They saw a basket of fresh-cut flowers. They saw small hands offering jasmine, lilies, roses tied with string and wrapped in plastic. They saw a child under a streetlight, standing beside the traffic as motorbikes passed in streaks of red and white light. What they didn't see was what drove her. The invisible force behind each sail, each step, each softly spoken, "Please, buy some." Mai was 12 years old the first time she realized that school was not free. Not really. Not when you were poor. Not when your father was gone and your mother worked in a garment factory from dawn till after dark. Not when you had younger siblings and no safety net. Tuition wasn't high, but it was high enough. Uniforms, textbooks, lunch money, exam fees. It added up. And dreams, as Mai had already learned, had a price. So she began selling flowers. At first, just on weekends. Then every night. Before homework, after dinner, sometimes instead of both. She sold in the market, near restaurants, beside office buildings, anywhere people might want beauty in their hands for just a few thousand zhong. And each bill she collected became a brick in the school she built for herself. Silently, flower by flower, she walked miles each day, often barefoot, carrying her basket from one side of the city to the other, sometimes in rain, sometimes in cold. She didn't complain, she didn't rebel. She just walked, and waited, and smiled. She had learned which flowers wilted quickest, which corners had the kindest pedestrians, which restaurants gave her extra tea at closing time. The streets became her map, her market, her classroom. Some nights she made enough to cover a week's expenses. Other nights she went home with her basket still half full, lips dry, stomach empty, legs aching. But she still went to school the next day. She still sat in the third row, hair tied back, eyes focused on the blackboard. She loved science. She loved English. But mostly she loved the idea that maybe, someday, she wouldn't have to choose between hunger and homework. That maybe her siblings wouldn't either. She didn't need much. Just a desk. Just a teacher who saw her. Just a chance. And for that chance, she kept walking, selling, dreaming. Her teachers knew. Of course they knew. They saw the shadows under her eyes, the calluses on her hands, the way she sometimes nodded off in class or stared too long at her notebooks, as if willing them to become more than paper. Some tried to help. Extra tutoring, donated books, small kindnesses that Mai never asked for but always received with quiet gratitude. Her mother knew too. But pride is heavy in poor families, and shame even heavier. So they said little, they just worked. Together. Mai's mother sewed shirts. Mai sold flowers. Her little brother washed dishes at a roadside stall. And still, they smiled when they could. Still, they made time for each other. Still, they believed that education could unlock something more permanent than charity. Something earned. Something theirs. There were nights when the city felt too big, too fast, too loud. Nights when men laughed too harshly or turned her away with a flick of the hand. Nights when other girls her age sat in cafes with bubble tea and shiny shoes, their laughter floating in the air while Mai stood outside, holding a bouquet she couldn't afford to keep. But she didn't envy them. Not really. She just watched, then turned away, her dreams sharper than ever. She didn't need pity. She didn't need rescue. She needed time. She needed enough good nights to outnumber the bad ones. And slowly, they did. She found repeat customers, a woman who bought lotus blossoms every Thursday, a florist who let her trade leftover roses for ribbon and plastic sleeves, a street vendor who shared sweet rice after closing. Kindnesses, small, fleeting, but powerful. Mai kept a notebook, not a school one, a secret one hidden under her mattress. Inside were numbers, how much she made each day, how much she needed to pay for her term fees, her supplies, her uniform. But in the margins, there were drawings, little sketches of flowers she couldn't afford to sell, orchids, magnolias, bougainvillea. And sometimes between the numbers and the petals, she wrote in big looping letters, "I will finish school." She wrote it not because she doubted herself, but because it helped her remember who she was when the days blurred together and exhaustion sat heavy on her shoulders. And each time she sold a flower, she saw herself inching closer, not just toward a diploma, but toward a version of herself she believed in. One with options, one who could speak in meetings, sign forms, stand tall. Mai didn't grow up with toys or birthday parties or long afternoons spent in play. She grew up with numbers that didn't add up and days that moved too fast to rest. She grew up calculating how many more flower sales it would take to buy her chemistry textbook, or how many evenings she'd need to work to cover exam registration. Every choice she made had a cost. When friends invited her to study groups or stay after school for club activities, she smiled and declined. Not because she didn't want to be there, but because she had a tray to fill and sidewalks to reach before the night got too deep. She wanted to be a normal student, one who read novels in bed or practiced handwriting or watched dramas on television. But normal wasn't on the menu for girls like her. Her dreams didn't get after-school hours. They got the time between sales. They got the edges of her energy, the spaces between exhaustion. And somehow, that made them stronger, because they weren't handed to her. She had to earn them, one blossom at a time. There were nights when she broke down, silently, behind the curtain that separated the sleeping mats in her one-room home. Nights when the coins in her pouch didn't match the target in her notebook. Nights when her mother's fingers bled from long hours at the sewing machine and her brother's cough wouldn't stop and there just wasn't enough rice. On those nights, Mai wanted to scream, not because she was angry, but because she was tired. So tired. But she didn't scream. She didn't give up. She folded the next set of bills, closed her eyes, and reminded herself that pain could be fuel if she used it right. The next morning, she got up again. She braided her hair, put on her uniform, and walked to school with the same slow dignity. As always. No one needed to see the tears. They only needed to see that she showed up, and show up she did. Not just in attendance, but in spirit. She became known as the girl who asked questions. The girl who corrected her own mistakes before the teacher had to. The one who listened with her whole body, as if every lesson were a lifeline. Her teachers began to notice. She wasn't the top of the class, not always, but she was the one who never stopped trying. One day, her science teacher called her aside and asked, "What do you want to be?" And for the first time, Mai said it out loud. "I want to be a teacher, like you." The teacher smiled. "Then keep going. Don't stop." That moment stayed with her. It wasn't just a compliment. It was confirmation. She wasn't just surviving school. She was becoming something because of it. As the sun dipped behind the rooftops of Hanoi, Mai's second day always began. Her school bag was swapped for a flower basket. Her notebooks traded for bundles of jasmine, white lilies, garden roses, and small lotus stems wrapped in newspaper. Her route was never exactly the same, but the goal was reach the evening crowd. The office workers, the dinner daters, the night commuters. She learned their rhythms. She knew which alleys lit up with restaurant chatter and which streets turned cold and empty. She wasn't the only one selling. Other children worked too, hawking lottery tickets, chewing gum, cheap toys, tissues. They passed each other like shadows. Sometimes they nodded. Sometimes they shared food. Most of the time, they moved in silence, like ghosts in a world that rarely looked down. Occasionally, a stranger would stop, not to buy, but to talk. Some offered pity, Some offered lectures. "You should be home studying," they'd say. She would nod politely, bite back the truth, that she studied whenever she could, that this job was the reason she could stay in school at all, and move on. Sometimes people gave extra money. Sometimes they didn't pay at all. One woman, a foreign tourist, bought a flower every night for 5 days straight and asked Mai to teach her Vietnamese phrases. On the last day, the woman gave her a small notebook and said, "You have a beautiful mind. Keep writing." Mai still kept that notebook. It was one of the few things she owned that was hers alone. As months became years, Mai's legs grew stronger, her confidence steadier. She walked taller. She learned to count quickly, make change efficiently, speak with clarity, and carry herself with presence. Her math scores improved because of her street-side arithmetic. Her language skills sharpened as she overheard conversations and picked up new words from tourists and locals alike. Without realizing it, the city itself had become her tutor. Every sidewalk was a sentence, every transaction, a test. And every sale, no matter how small, was a step forward. She never forgot what she was working toward. A life where learning was her full-time job. A life where her siblings wouldn't have to sell anything to survive. The day Mai paid her final exam fee in full was a quiet victory. No celebration, no confetti. Just her standing in the school office, holding out a small envelope filled with neatly stacked bills. The clerk glanced inside, counted silently, and stamped her name on the register. That stamp was more than administrative. It was the sound of possibility clicking open. For the first time, Mai allowed herself to think beyond the next term, beyond the daily hustle. She thought about college, about scholarships, about classrooms where she would stand at the front, not as a student, but as a teacher. And with that vision came a new wave of energy. She worked longer hours, took better notes, found ways to tutor younger students in exchange for meals or old books. Her dream no longer felt far. It felt like it was reaching back to meet her halfway. When exam results came, Mai held the paper like it might fly away. Her scores were good, not perfect, but strong. Enough to apply for the teacher training program at a nearby vocational college. She wrote her application late at night, candle flickering beside her, dictionary in one hand and her heart in the other. And when she finally mailed it, using coins she could have spent on rice, she felt a peace she hadn't known before. She had done everything she could. Now it was the world's turn to meet her with mercy. Weeks passed. Then a letter came. Thin. Official. She opened it slowly. She had been accepted. With partial aid. Not enough to cover everything, but enough to make it possible. She cried that night for the first time in years, not out of sadness, but because she had been seen. All those nights, all those petals, all those sidewalk hours, they had been worth something. Today, Mai no longer sells flowers. She teaches. Her classroom is small, the building humble, the resources limited, but her presence is expansive. She teaches science, and she teaches with fire. Her students, many of them first-generation learners, feel it. She tells them stories, sometimes hers, often others. She teaches them how to dream with structure, how to plan with passion, how to fail with grace. And every now and then, when she walks home from school and sees a girl standing on the sidewalk, holding a basket of white flowers, she stops. She always buys one. She doesn't say why. But she walks away smiling, the stem in hand, remembering who she was. And the truth is, her story is still unfolding. She hasn't solved poverty. She hasn't fixed every injustice. Her mother still works. Her brother still studies with borrowed books. But they have hope now, not just the kind that floats, but the kind that builds, that lasts, that earns its place, the kind that grows like a flower in dry soil, because someone believed it could. That's what Mai's story is. A field of proof that determination, even in silence, even in poverty, even in the middle of a city that forgets your name, can take root and rise. And that sometimes the smallest dreams, sold one flower at a time, bloom into lives that lift others. 2.